So I think to go into the book, I have a question for you, which is how have things changed in research and inquiry into UAP and our understanding of them, and how have they stayed the same? I ask you that because you provide a window into what was happening in the background in the BAS group, the OSAP group, and what came after. You call the group the Lone Stars in the book, which I think is a euphemism. But you give us a window into those conversations, and what I see there is that it shows that there's not as much consensus as people think, even among the best researchers.
The first, interest, official interest and scientific interest in the subject just came from having all these reports from both from military people, but mostly from civilians who were exposed to the phenomenon. And the response was generally skeptical, but there was a feeling that, we cannot ignore those reports because, frankly, because um, the feeling of danger in international relations. There could be something going on that would be a threat. And that that was not so much the case in Europe. I think in Europe the reaction was always one of curiosity, and scientific interest in a new report, because that's where science is made. But in the U.S., everything tends to be interpreted as a threat to the stability of the country and so on. And that's very much a cultural reaction. So that precipitated as you know, a number of classified studies. And then the Air Force with Project Blue Book, which lasted almost 20 years. The Blue Book was not classified, contrary to some of the things we still see in the press. And it, it at the beginning, it was just eliminating one case after the other to give people the feeling that nothing was hidden, nothing was classified. You can report this, although pilots did not report. Um, but the population reported, and there were radar data. There were that kind of thing. So that triggered a controversy within the scientific community as to the relevance of that. And the Air Force felt that they had other things to do. I mean, you join the Air Force to fly, the fastest, best planes you can find, and you don't want to be stuck in an office going through files, one after the other of somebody seeing a light at night. I mean, who cares? And the uh, the Air Force finally created or led to the creation of a study at the University of Colorado, um, led by Professor Condon, who was a distinguished physicist of the Oppenheimer generation. And after 2 years, they concluded that in fact there was no implied threat in the phenomenon. And although they did not explain all the cases they had looked at, but that generally they thought, and that's almost an exact quote, that science would not be advanced by investing more people and more money into the study of UFOs, which people understood to mean go home, there's nothing there. And it killed the research for over 10 years, probably 15 years. Um, Fortunately, there were people like me who had other income. I mean, I had professional commitments in technology and then in the financing of advanced technology. And it's a credit to the people who invested in the venture funds that I ran with a small team of people that they knew. I mean, I never thought of hiding the fact that I was spending time, my own time, studying UFOs. And in Silicon Valley, you know, people thought that it was important to do that. So I was in fact supported by many of the people who invested in my funds, including the fund by NASA. So I had the privilege of having access to um, I had no real secret access to anything except in very specific areas, but but that was not relevant. I mean, most of the data came from people who had seen something and were reporting it openly, including cops, including university professors, and including farmers. The farmers were probably the best because they knew their territory very well, and they could see when when animals reacted to certain things. And there were traces. You could go to those places, which I did, with people who had experience with vegetation, with animals, with all that. And then Mr. Bigelow became interested, and I was part of uh, the first approach with NIDS. And when the team bought the ranch, when Mr. Bigelow bought that ranch um, uh, in Utah, and we looked all over Utah and Nevada deeply for recurrent cases, and as you know, people still are active with those properties where things seem to continue happening. So that's that's what brought us here. And then, as you know, the Defense Intelligence Agency took an interest in what was going on at the Bigelow Ranch and funded a study that I was part of called BASS, Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Systems. And my responsibility there, along with Dr. Puthoff, Dr. Keller, and many others, uh, all of us uh, at, at in that particular study, having classified access at the top secret level for the duration of the study. And my particular assignment was the building of a database, which has been partially, you know, not it has not been declassified, and I understand why. Um, but it covers 240,000 cases all over the world. So it's not really a database. It's what's called a data warehouse with 13 or 14 different databases that we reduced all to English to a common structure. That structure was going to feed into an artificial intelligence system that would have two purposes. The first one would be to refine it, because nobody needs 240,000 cases to know that there is some sort of a phenomenon happening. We need, if we had 20,000 of the best ones, we could turn that over to the scientific community in different different disciplines, from medicine to chemistry to architect to agriculture and everything else. And based on that, there would be a number of teams could feed from that. That was the idea. It was not done because we were cut off after 2 years, and I really don't know the current disposition of what we did. So at that point, the project terminated, and I I should make it clear I don't have any secret clearance or particular access, outside of that study. So
So
right now I
so
have no clearance.